Hey guys, welcome to Summer Honey News, Reviews, and Recaps. Today we're going to be reviewing and recapping Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 6, Episodes 1 and 2. While you're here, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and give us some feedback in the comment section. So the scene starts off with Angie pulling up to Mary's house in an RV. Mary is shocked because when Angie opens the door, she's wearing office attire. So she's confused like, are we going camping or we're going to a meeting? So the scene cuts to the other ladies, Brittany, Whitney, Heather, Meredith, and Bronwyn in front of Beauty Labs. They're waiting, they're discussing the trip. They're talking about what they think it could be based off the invite that they got from Angie. They also discuss Lisa not being there and what the issue is about her not coming. They also start touching on a few different things about the feuds in the groups and what's going on with each person and who they're beefing with. So as they're talking about this, Angie and Mary pull up in the RV. Brittany is shocked because she's thinking they're going to some tropical vacation or something. She opens up her jacket and she's wearing a bikini. Like, girl, where did you think we were going? It is cold and freezing. Nobody else had that same type of attire. So it was really funny. So they end up getting on the RV and it's close quarters. So I'm kind of like, how are these ladies going to survive this as this goes on? So as they're getting ready to take off, a group of what looks like SWAT surround the RV and they're asking for Whitney to come out. Now, all the girls, they're triggered because the last time something like this happened was with Jen Shaw, and we know how that ended. So they're calling for Whitney to come out, and Whitney comes out, and right away the guy has like this little smirk on his face, and you find out they're male dancers that Whitney hired. She set this whole thing up just as a surprise to the girls and stuff. So it was really funny. They were dancing and like gyrating on them. It was so corny and cheesy, and Mary just was like, "You know me," to the guy who was like trying to dance with her. So it was hilarious. But the guys are there, they get their little dancing for a little bit, and then they take off. So as they're driving and making their way out to where they're going, which is we found out later is the campsite, um, Brittany says, "Oh, the direction we're going is like towards my house," and Mary's like, "Oh, so we could drop you off then." And it just is like she's coming for her every time she says something. And I kind of felt bad for Brittany a little bit because you could tell she was just trying to like fit in. But throughout this whole episode, she just misses the mark, and I don't think she's really reading the room. So again, like the girls are driving to the campsite, and the topic of Lisa is brought up again of why she's not there or why she's not coming, and you see a flashback of Angie talking to Lisa, and Lisa's basically saying that she didn't want to go because Brown was going to be there. So Angie kind of tries to cover for Lisa a little bit, but she fails and just ends up saying like, it has to do with Brown. That's why she didn't want to be there. Um, so while that's happening, Bronwyn, she's a little defensive. Brittany jumps in and she's trying to defend Lisa, and some way it gets to Whitney's business and the things going on with Whitney's business. Brittany's jumping to Lisa's defense, which I don't think Lisa needs anybody to defend her. She does a good job of defending herself. Whitney and Brittany go back and forth about just her business and what's going on. So, we have to listen to that for a little bit. So the ladies have arrived at Provo River RV Park, and that's where they'll be camping. Upon arrival, as they're driving through the campgrounds, they realize it is very trashy looking. There's broke down buses, beat up cars. It just looks like a wasteland. And so Mary and her professional is like, I don't know how my name got attached to this trip because this is not something I would plan. Like, this doesn't even go with her brand, and nobody would imagine Mary camping. Okay, you think of luxury, opulence, bouginess when you think of Mary. So they're checking out the site once they get to their campsite. Brittany, she's still trying to vibe with the girls, and everything she's doing is just falling flat. So she decides to try to make a joke out of, her being the camera girl, and introduces camcorders to the girls like, hey, we can record this. Um, we can show our experiences with each other. And all the girls are just looking at her like, girl, like, what? Why we don't trust you. You are the girl that be recording everybody when they don't know about it. If you've seen the previous seasons, you'll know what I'm talking about. So the girls kind of warm up to the idea and start playing around with the camcorders, and it's really cute. They're having some good moments, but that doesn't last too long because here comes Angie. She got to bring up Lisa's absence again. And along with that, she's saying, about Lisa's lawsuits, the multiple lawsuits that are going on. And they talk about that for a little bit. Heather, however, she's not feeling this. So she defends Lisa. She kind of pretends to not know about any of the lawsuits, which is kind of hard because everything's been in the paper, everything's been in the news. So she's acting up too. So like she just doesn't know. And, the girls are going back and forth comparing Jen Shaw and Lisa, and Heather continues to be obtuse, and then brings up Bronwyn's 40 is it 40 million or 4 million? I think it was $4 million necklace that she had lied about, and how she doesn't own the necklace. Bronwyn, she owns up to it right away. It's like, yeah, I didn't handle that well. I was trying to be cool. I went against what I know to do. I that's not me. That's not my personality. I wouldn't have normally done that, and that's something I'm not proud of. So Brittany tries to pile on, but Mary and Bronwyn shut her down. Okay, so the ladies agree not to talk about Lisa behind her back. Brittany then announces an engagement, and nobody cares. And then after that, she says we're unengaged again. She's not reading the room. So after the awkward announcement from Brittany, the girls decided to split into two groups, one group to go fishing and one group to go kayaking. The kayak group was Heather, Whitney, and Bronwyn. The fishing group was Mary, Meredith, and Angie, along with Brittany. The scene cuts over to Heather, Whitney, and Bronwyn getting ready to get in the kayaks. Heather and Bronwyn end up doing the two-person one, and Brittany does the one-person one. It is hilarious seeing these guys trying to navigate down this little small river. Whitney's ahead of the girls, so she's like, "Oh, I see some rough waters ahead." Of course, that kind of freaks them out because they don't have much experience with it. She does because she's an outdoor person. We know Whitney's very athletic. Um, while all that's going on, it brings Heather and Bronwyn together, and it allows them to work on their friendship. They talk about some things. Of course, they can't talk about too much because they're trying to battle these waves. On the other side of the camp, you have Mary, Meredith, Angie, and Brittany fishing with the guy Dusty, I think his name was, but for some reason, Mary could not get his name right. She kept calling him Gusty with everything except for that man's name. So Meredith, you could tell she's kind of getting bored, and she's asking, their guy, does it? How long does it typically take to catch a fish? How long does that take? And he's like, that's the $1 million question there. Like, basically, there's no answer for that. It's just something you just have to let happen. So while they're talking about this, Mary, her comedic timing is perfect. I don't know if it's just because that's how she is, or she just, I don't know, but she's just always perfect with the comedy. She's talking about, she doesn't want to keep the fish, she just wants to throw them back. And, the guy's like, yeah, there's no way to bring them back, once you get them. She's like, well, I could imagine, um, giving them CPR. And her professional, she's like, yeah, you can give the fish CPR. And I'm sure there's like a beat you could do the CPR to, just like with humans. And it's just the way she's explaining it is so funny because it's like, girl, there's you can't do that. You're not. Who is about to give mouth to mouth to a fish? Nobody's giving mouth to mouth to a fish. So see, because later to the ladies over the fire, and they're having hot dogs, typical camping stuff. But Angie in her confession says that she forgot the supplies, so that's why they're eating with sticks, grilling hot dogs with sticks and stuff and twigs, and you know, um, that's just what it is. So as they're sitting there eating and making jokes, and of course, they always throw in a few little inappropriate jokes that are funny. They start talking about the urban legend about Molly Sorensen, I believe her name is. some women that have gone missing. It's been blamed on this woman, and just a bunch of little scary hauntings that have happened in the area. So they talk about that. And Heather talks about her and Bronwyn's day and how they kind of had a good little trip, and bonded over the kayaking. Well, while they're talking about this, here goes Angie again bringing up Lisa. And it's just really weird how she keeps doing it. It's like, well, I mean, why do you keep bringing her up? We've already agreed to not talk about her while she's not here. Well, while that's going on, here comes Brittany. Miss doesn't know how to read the room and talks about something else. She makes it about something else, but relating to her. And everybody's just like, once again, like, what are you talking about, girl? And then she goes in on Whitney about her businesses and, what's going on with her and the issues that she's having. And they argue, they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Um, and Whitney just lays it out. She's like, "This is very hard for me. Like, this is not easy. This is not, what I wanted. This is not what I wanted to be doing." Meredith also gets on Brittany. Brittany ends up apologizing, to Whitney, and it seems like they've kind of worked it out a little bit, and it just gets kind of heavy. Heather does try to change the mood by telling the girls, hey, let's go exploring. Let's go see what this Molly chick is all about. And, what this legend, if this legend is true, let's grab our cameras, grab your stuff, you guys. And let's go out and exploring. It's late at night, it's dark, it's just us girls. It sounds fun, but it doesn't sound fun. In the confessional, Mary saying that she doesn't want to go because she's like, I'm the only black person here, and black people usually get killed first. So, like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. So the ladies end up going out. You can tell they're getting scared, and with the camcorders, they film from their point of view. So it kind of gives like a Blair Witch Project vibe. And the ladies lose phone reception because, of course, they're on a campsite. They're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And everybody's getting scared. Everybody's trying to find Meredith. It seems like she's gotten lost. Nobody's heard from her. Then the cameras go back black. And that's the end of the episode. Okay, so now we're going into episode 2. The ladies are still at Provo River at the RV park, and we are where we left off. Molly didn't get the girls as we see them all sleep in the RV, even Meredith. As they're waking up, Mary asks Angie, "What happened last night?" And it flashes back to a montage of Blair Witch Project S scenes with the ladies and all this crazy stuff that happened. You could tell they definitely had a good time. So the ladies get up after the montage shows and they go downstream to brush their teeth. As they're there, they see a lot of wildlife and they admire the nature and decide that it's a good time to go ahead and cook breakfast. So as they head back to camp and they start cooking steaks, Bronwyn's trying to cook and she is just failing miserably. Mary calls her out and was like, I don't like the way you're cooking that steak. It looks like you don't know what you're doing. She's poking at it like it's a dead carcass or something. And I guess in a sense it kind of is, but it's just the way she's trying to cook it is just a mess. So everybody agrees that Meredith should be the one cooking. It is funny because even Bronwyn owns it. She's like, "Yeah, I'm not a cook. Like, that's not one of my skills." So all the girls get their food, for breakfast, and they start sitting around and talking. And Heather brings up about how her last kid is about to leave the nest, and she's ready for her to go, because she feels like it's the end of that particular era that she's already experienced, and she just wants it to be over. And part of that is that child moving out. Bronwyn, chimes in and she shares that she feels the opposite of that. Like she's not ready for her daughter to go, even to the point of moving her daughter's boyfriend in, which I feel like that's a little too far. I understand, like, as a parent, like, the empty nest syndrome, that's hard to, have your kids at home and then all of a sudden, like, they're gone and you have to adjust to life without them being there every day. And of course, most parents want their kids to be independent and launch out on their own. But it's hard. It's a transition that nobody prepares you for. So the ladies are chiming in on what their different views and perspectives are of, having an empty nest. And Whitney brings up her business failing and how all she wants to do is be at home with her kids, but she can't because she needs to work. She has to work. While all this is going on, you could kind of tell that Heather took offense to what Brahmin said about her, feeling the opposite of her, not wanting her kid to be gone. And I think she took offense to it, but I feel like at this point, anything Brahmin says, Heather is going to take offense to because she just doesn't like her or has a problem with her. And I really feel like it stems because of Lisa. Her and Lisa are starting to have a somewhat of a better friendship. And so anybody that's the enemy of Lisa is most likely the enemy of Heather at this point. So Winnie ends up asking Mary about Robert Jr. and how he's doing. You could tell it's a sore subject, and Mary is a little sensitive about it. And she just says, he's still kind of going through, but they're working on it, taking it day by day. And you could tell she really cares about him and wants him to do well. So the ladies are finishing eating and they agree like they've had enough of roughing it. They're ready to get back to their lives, of luxury and necessary things that they need to live their day to day life. So they decided to pack it up, and as they're getting ready to leave, the RV gets stuck and they cannot get out. They all decide, okay, we'll go out and push, except Mary. Mary's like, that, like, I don't do that. Even the girls know Mary's not coming out there to push. So one of them says, I'll push for you, Mary. I'll do that for you so you don't have to do it. So they end up pushing the RV and they get it unstuck and they're able to get on their way. The scene opens up with the ladies shown at their respective homes with their families doing different activities and enjoying themselves. You could just see them living life. The next scene shows Heather driving on the phone, getting ready to meet up with Lisa, and talks about a party that they're all going to be going to at a lady named Amy's house. As she meets up with Lisa, she gossips to her about Brahman's comments about her lawsuits. Of course, Heather, she has to add extras on it to make it sound more juicier, which I really wish she wouldn't do that because it hurts her more in the long run with her credibility and it just stirs the pot. But, of course, that's what Heather's going to do. So Lisa says that the lawsuits are in the process of all getting dismissed, and when people go after people, they always aim for the top, and that's why they're coming after her. And she says she's going to address all the ladies at the lady Amy's party that they're all going to be at. She starts getting on her high horse, talking about her life is so different than the rest of the ladies, and she lives a different life than the rest of them. Like she's so above, and it's just very elitist the way that she's talking. So Heather attempts to correct her. Lisa redirects and asks her, did anybody stand up for her? Instead of addressing, the comment that Heather made about her not living a different life than the rest of the ladies. Heather lets it slide and she says, well, Angie piled on after Brahman made the comments that she was making. And Meredith, and she was just Meredith. The same thing that she does. So Lisa starts crying. She says that she's fine, but clearly she's not fine because, girl, you are crying, like really crying, and because it's bothering you. So Heather tells her, it's okay to have hurt feelings over friends that you feel like, betrayed you. The next scene opens up with Whitney and Brolin going skiing. You can tell the girls are having fun. The slopes look nice. It looks like a perfect day to be skiing on the slopes. So they stop for a minute to take a break. Brolin brings up how her and Heather seem to be getting along very well and they're taking steps to be in a better place with each other. And she wants to continue on that path with Heather. She really wants their friendship to work out. Whitney also brings up the double standard with Lisa in her lawsuits and the ladies, and they seem to be on the same page about that. So then we cut to Mary in her home. Her son, Robert Jr., is walking in, and she wants to talk to him to see where he's at on his journey. So they discuss, the process and what it looks like to getting himself back on track. He says he feels like, it's a scary time for him changing who he is as a person. And he's been isolating himself from the bad influences. Mary's shown a lot of support for her son. It's a difficult time, and she explains to him why isolating himself from the negative friends and environments is important, to getting back on track. He expresses that he's been getting unhealthy stimuli from foods and other substances. And you could tell that, Mary's listening to this and she's trying to control her emotions and her reaction um, toward what he's saying. But I could tell that it's affecting her hearing that, he's still really struggling, but she wants him to get it. Even in her confessional, she says that, he has all the tools that he needs and her and his father just want him to take initiative to do that. They're going to support him, they're going to help him, but he needs to take the steps as well. So they go back to her room from her confessional, and he states to his mom, like, he just feels like he feels bad because he isn't perfect and he isn't who he wants to be for himself. So she continues to encourage him and lets him know that, we take it day by day, take it moment by moment. And so in this next scene, we have Bronwyn and Heather meeting up to talk about their friendship. It's a little awkward, they try to discuss where their friendship is going and how things are perceived or received from each other. Bronwyn owns her part. She admits that, hey, maybe sometimes I say things are not received properly. Um, but a lot of times it's Heather just taking offense just because she wants to be offended. And I feel like a lot of that is on behalf of Lisa. So, Bronwyn's trying to find a middle ground with Heather, and Heather just seems bent on making Bronwyn and Lisa's relationship the determining factor on if her and Bronwyn can be friends, and it's just really awkward. So the day of Amy's party has arrived, and the ladies look stunning. They look great. So as they arrive to the house, we see Meredith and her husband ring the wine bell, which you just ring the bell and they give you a glass of wine. It's super cute. I went to a friend's wedding who had this same thing. So all the ladies have arrived. The only people not there are Lisa and her husband. But they cut to the next scene and you see them driving and they're heading to Amy's party. Lisa's talking about how the girls are vultures and she feels like everyone's after her. She's always a victim. If you've seen other seasons, she's always the victim. So Lisa arrives with her husband. Some of the women say hi to her, some of them don't. Lisa makes a beeline straight to Meredith and tells her how Heather filled her in on the girls' trip and let her know who was a good friend and, who wasn't, basically. Meredith, you could tell she's like, okay, I heard this before, done this before with you. I know how this goes. So she tells her, she's like, the other ladies need to talk to you and, air their grievances with you, basically. So as she's telling her this, Brittany comes up and she's like, oh, and Brahman piled on and Angie compared you to Dan Shaw. And why does she tell Lisa that? That just sends her to just the next level. And she's just, you could tell she's like pissed and upset. So, Lisa makes a beeline to Angie to confront her, which is kind of interesting because you would think she would want to confront Bronwyn because she's the one who said the majority of the stuff, and Angie is somewhat supposed to be her friend. But maybe that's why she's confronting her first because that is supposed to be her friend. So on her way over to confront Angie, she sees Mary. Lisa gives Mary a hug and says hello, and then just lays right into Angie about, the stuff that she said. As she's going in on Angie, Bronwyn pops up and she jumps in and says, hey, Lisa, your issue is not even with Angie. It's me you have the issue with. Like, let her know, like, Lisa, your anger is misplaced. You're upset with me. I'm the problem. I'm the one, that you want to smoke with, And of course, Lisa, she's not expecting it. She has to act all hard and, like, no, this is who I'm talking to. This is my friend. And we've been friends for all these years. So I'm addressing her and I don't even like you. And, saying all this stuff. So as they're arguing, we see the husbands and the men. They're talking to Brittany's ex fiance and asking him, is he in love with Brittany? And he said he's in love with her, but there's a lot of buts, So we kind of see where he stands with her. I think that she should probably look in other places until this guy is sure about her. Because at this point, it's just like, girl, what are you doing? So they cut back to Lisa and Bronwyn. They're still going back and forth. They're, not really insulting each other, but, just saying, well, you said this is going on with you, you're doing it. And then Lisa takes it too far. Of course, that was going to happen. Lisa takes it too far. And she calls Bronwyn a gout D, the rest. And it's just like, girl, what is going on? Like, she's married. So if she's doing that with her husband, that's her husband. She's supposed to. But Bronwyn's not phased by it. She brings up her, her statements about the lawsuits with Lisa and she backs it up with facts. And, as she's bringing those up, the editors put in some of the articles from the newspapers that back up what Bronwyn's saying about Lisa. The ladies are making a scene, they're kind of getting loud, and the hosts and other people are noticing, you know, one of the ladies or a few of the ladies kind of, hey, this doesn't look good, you guys kind of gotta chill out or whatever. because they're making a scene. But you know, Ron's sticking to her story. Lisa's trying to redirect by insulting her about different things in regards to her marriage, and you know they think that she's out with her husband, and you know Ron's like, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but you know that's not gonna clear up your lawsuits. It's not gonna make your stuff go away. You know you still got your issues. That's my husband. Marriages have ups and downs and stuff. So she's not phased. You know she's not phased by her, and Lisa, you know, I feel like you should just pack it up at this point. Brolin got you, girl, and just pay your lawsuits and you know get it over with. But Lisa, she's still trying to redirect and you know attacking Brolin and stuff. But Brolin's not backing down, and she's not gonna let Lisa get the best of her. So at the end of it, Lisa ends up walking out with her husband, and that's the end of the scene. So I'll be interested to see what happens next week. With the ladies and how this all goes. So that was the end of episode 2. I think that this season 6 for Salt Lake City has started off really well. The ladies are bringing it. Mary's comedic timing and every scene that she's been in has been just amazing. I love seeing them with their kids and the different issues that they're going through and how they're handling parenting. I'm gonna be curious on how Lisa and Brolin's relationship go, as well as Heather and Brolin. I don't really think that's gonna last too long, because she's seen Lisa. But who knows? Maybe Lisa might do her dirty, and she'll, you know, get some sense about her and um, get her mind right. But you guys, let me know what you guys thought about the review. You know, what you guys felt about the episodes as well, episodes 1 and 2, and what you're looking forward to the most for this upcoming season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, season 6. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys.